This might actually put an end to the agent's memory loss.
Around 900 tokens. About a 50. You tell it first look up related past sessions. That's how you can trace why a design got rejected.
Ugh, this CI error again. I feel like I saw the same one last week. I had Claude Code look into it, and it's digging through logs again.
Oh, isn't that the one we already solved before?
Right? It's a disk space issue, just run the runbook and it's fixed. But the agent thinks it's a test bug and is running off in a completely different direction.
Well, agents get their memory reset every session. It can read the code in front of it, but it has no idea what was tried before, or what didn't work.
Explaining the same fix all over again every time is honestly kind of exhausting.
But here's the thing. Your machine still has every past conversation log sitting right there, Shari.
Logs? Like the ones in /Claude?
Exactly. Claude Code, Cursor, Codex. Months of history is just sitting there dormant. The problem is the formats are all over the place, so they're hard to search.
So there's a way to organize all that and actually make it usable.
There's a CLI called CTX. It indexes your local history into a unified format so you can search it.
This might actually put an end to the agent's memory loss.
The author of CTX posted an interesting real-world example on Hacker News.
The disk full thing from earlier.
Right? CI kept failing because it ran out of disk space. And every time, the agent would assume it was a bug in the tests, so it would just go off debugging it from scratch.
Yeah, you can't tell the root cause just from the error message.
But once the history became searchable, it could recognize, hey, this failure happened before, so it ended up going straight to the runbook instead.
So the agent gets access to the fix your past self already figured out.
Agents tend to fall into the same hole over and over. Since they only judge from what's in front of them, they'll suggest an approach you already ruled out.
Having to say we already tried that and it didn't work every single time gets old.
With searchable history, it's not just how you solved it last time. What you tried and what failed gets kept too.
So it's structurally built to stop the same mistake from repeating. But couldn't you just grep through /Claude directly instead of bothering with CTX?
Technically, sure, but speed isn't the actual problem.
Not speed, ripgrep would do it in an instant.
The search itself is fast. The bottleneck is token usage. Feeding the agent raw logs burns around 45,000 tokens for a single search.
45,000. What fraction of the context window is that again?
For Claude Code, that's enough to trigger compaction pretty quickly. Just one history lookup, and you've eaten into the room you actually needed for the real work.
So how much does CTX use instead?
Around 900 tokens, about a 50th of searching raw logs.
With a 50x difference, that changes whether you'd actually reach for it every time.
The author said the same thing. It's not about whether it's possible. The real dividing line is whether you can run it before every single task.
If pulling up history is that cheap, it could actually become a habit. Claude Code, Cursor, Codex, they all store logs in different places.
The formats are all different too. Some are JSONal, some use their own SQLite setup.
And Gemini CLI, Copilot CLI probably store theirs somewhere else entirely.
CTX converts all that scattered history into a unified schema. It supports close to 40 different harnesses, so it covers pretty much every major agent.
Can I check which agent's history is actually usable on my own machine?
The CTX sources command lists every history source it's detected. It'll tell you exactly where the logs for your installed agents live.
What does this unified format actually look like structurally?
It's split into 3 layers: session, event, and touched file. Session is the whole conversation, event is each individual exchange, and touched file is the files that got edited.
So you can search at whatever granularity you need, which keeps token usage down.
Exactly. The strength is being able to narrow it down to just the sessions that touched a specific file.
It's nice that you can pull it up with the same search, no matter which agent you're working in. So how do you actually install CTX?
You just run the installer with curl. Same steps on Mac OS and Linux. It's curl fs sl https //ctx rs/install.sh.
And after that,
Running CTX setup indexes all the agent history on your machine. Claude Code, Cursor, Codex. It finds them all automatically and pulls them in.
how do you actually search?
You can search in natural language, like CTX search, failed migration. With the file option, you can narrow it to sessions that touched a specific file. And term lets you do n and search across multiple keywords.
What form do the search results actually come back in?
You get an event ID and a session ID back. It's designed so you can use those IDs to pull back just the part you need.
So instead of the full text, you only pull the granularity you actually need. That saves tokens. Is there anything beyond search, like more detailed analysis? Like say, which agent you use the most?
The CTX SQL command lets you hit SQLite directly. You can aggregate session counts by provider, or pull out only the events that touched a specific file.
If you've got raw SQL, you can filter by time range too, right?
Yeah, you can pull just last week's work, or just what's related to this repo, whatever you want.
Is there a risk of writing directly and breaking something?
Don't worry, it's read-only. It's designed so you can only query, never write.
What if you want to look closer at something you found in a query?
You can use CTX show session to see the whole session, or CTX show event to reconstruct the surrounding exchange. Filter with SQL, then pull details by ID. That two-step process is what makes it work.
It's exactly because it's structured that this kind of flexible analysis is possible. Okay, I get that you can search with CTX, but how do you get an agent to use it automatically?
There are 3 ways to wire it in: Skills and MCP server, or the SDK. The easiest is the CTX integrations install skills command. It drops a history search skill into Claude Code, Codex, or Cursor.
So once you install the skill, does the agent just start pulling up history on its own?
The author's recommended workflow is having a subagent put together a brief before you even start work. You tell it first look up related past sessions, then write a short summary.
So you're loading up past context before you even get into the actual task.
The second way is the MCP server. Run CTX MCP serve, and any MCP compatible agent can call it.
MCP, the standard protocol for calling tools from outside, right?
Right, it's exposed as a read-only search tool, so you can call it whenever you need. The third is the SDK. TypeScript, Python, Rust, Go. Those are all covered.
So if you're building your own agent, you can wire it in directly through the SDK.
Whichever way you pick, the point is turning history search into a habit.
There are other agent memory tools too, right? Mem0, Zep Graphiti. What's actually different about CTX?
Mem0 and Zep Graphiti extract facts and preferences from conversations and store those. Stable stuff like, this user runs Python 3.12, or the build uses PNPM.
So they carry around profile-like settings like info that doesn't change much.
CTX, on the other hand, deals with episodic memory. What actually happened, which command failed, which suggestion got rejected.
So instead of a summary, you can trace back to the original exchange itself.
Right, CTX is designed to return session IDs and event IDs instead of generating summaries. That's how you can trace why a design got rejected, or what the reasoning behind a decision actually was.
So the strength is that it leaves evidence behind, like an audit log.
And Mem0 style tools and CTX aren't mutually exclusive. They actually complement each other. Preferences and settings go in Mem0, the history of the work goes in CTX. You can split it that way.
Since they serve different purposes, running both makes sense. So indexing your history means it's sending data somewhere, right?
CTX doesn't send anything to the cloud. It's completely local. No API key needed, and it never calls a model.
So it's ready to use the moment you install it.
Right, it runs on a single Rust binary and a single SQLite file. There's no background service running either, so it stays simple.
Is the content of the logs masked at all?
Nope, local paths, secret-looking strings. They all stay as is.
So sharing it carelessly could be risky.
The README says it too. You need to review it yourself before sending it anywhere external. Rather than overmasking and adding noise, the design keeps things visible so you can judge for yourself.
So being fully local is exactly why you can see everything, on your own responsibility. CTX supports something like 40 agents, right? Which basically means the formats are all over the place.
Exactly. There's no shared spec, so every company just does its own thing. Right now, CTX works as an adapter layer that normalizes all of it.
So it absorbs the mess of every harness storing things its own way.
That said, the author doesn't seem to want this situation to last forever. On Hacker News, they argued that agent history needs a standard spec.
A standard spec? Like app?
Right? Think of it as an ACP for logs. The repo already has a contract called Agent History v1.
If standardization actually happens, would an adapter layer like CTX become unnecessary?
Eventually, maybe, as long as every agent starts outputting a shared format.
I want to try it out. Where should I start?
Run CTX sources. It shows you which agents' histories exist on your machine. You'll immediately see how many Claude Code, Cursor, or Codex logs have been sitting there.
If it were you, Renka, where would you start indexing?
Me? I'd probably start with Claude Code's session history. Starting with the agent you use the most makes it easier to feel the payoff.
Searching history before every task? How much of a hassle is that, really?
It's around 900 tokens, so it's cheap enough to fold into your routine before you start working. That's the strength of CTX. Check the past first, then start the task. Becomes realistic at that cost.
I think I can finally stop investigating the same CI error from scratch every single time.
If you know you keep falling into the same debugging hole, it's worth trying.